Hey guys, welcome to the Real and Raw
with Tasha,
and Angela.
and we are so excited to be back again for another episode.
Yes, we are.
Christmas has passed. How was your Christmas?
It was good. It
Okay.
was stressful because I had to wrap so many gifts by myself,
Oh,
but it was
that was
worth
hard.
seeing my kids, reaction to it. So it was all worth it. I
Yeah.
spent it with, just my family here. And it was nice and, you know, not quiet, but nice and it was eventful because they were just screaming and playing. So it was nice to see them,
And
my
my
kids.
godson loved his drum set.
Yes, he did. Thank you. Thank you.
You said it was
Yeah.
noisy, so that was probably one of the reasons why.
That was the main part of being noisy because he was actually playing with it till Spanish people Spanish people we actually celebrate Christmas. Our Christmas is the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when, we had the dinner, and at 12 midnight, that's when they opened their gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So, girl, they didn't want to go
At
to
12
sleep.
midnight, he was playing the drums.
Yes, they did not want to go to sleep. So I was like to my daughter, you know what? Next year, we're going to do the American tradition. We're going to open it when you guys wake up so y'all can play. But this whole Spanish thing is not working because they did not want to go to sleep.
I can
But it
imagine
was nice.
I can imagine your neighbors like, oh my goodness, it's 12 o'clock at
Oh
night.
God.
Kids are banging on the drum.
I mean, I did warn her, we celebrated today, okay, just in case. So she was like, yeah, I know.
That's good.
Yeah, how was yours?
So again, Christmas was definitely different. Just like I had mentioned before, my birthday was different. Christmas was with just myself and the children, and
Right.
it was different. We got through it. So many blessings. They had so many presents, and they were just so excited about the
I
presents.
saw.
We
Did you
don't.
wrap all that?
I didn't. I bought gift
Okay.
bags.
Okay.
And I didn't want to buy the gift bags, but I had a few people, I'm not going to mention any names, tell me to go buy some gift bags.
Wait, you were just gonna give it to them like that? Oh no, honey.
Uh-huh. Yep. I was going to just here you go, figure it out.
No.
And then all the gift bags ripped anyway. So it was like exactly what I thought was going to happen. It was a waste of money.
Yeah.
I was the Grinch this year, I think. So I'm thankful for people that were able to step in and give gifts and presents and stuff. I did do some presents, but I was just not feeling it this year with the pandemic and
Yes.
the separation. It's just definitely taken a toll on me. Um, the kids, we usually on Christmas Day, we usually do a breakfast, and then we do open the gifts, and then for the rest of the day they do whatever they want to do. So that's what we did. We did breakfast, and then they opened their gifts, and I left them alone. They played with their toys, and that was it. It was other than that, it was really relaxing. I was able to rest, and it was good. So
That's
I'm
good.
glad that day is over, and we don't have to worry
Yes.
about it until another 365 days.
Yes. Yes. But for us moms that have kids that were born either after Christmas, it's still
Never
doesn't
ends.
stop. It's still yeah.
So my little one's birthday, right? Yeah, my godson's birthday is tomorrow.
Yes.
So I'm so excited about that. So what are you doing tomorrow, if anything?
Of course, you're invited. You're gonna come over.
Yes.
Just a little, intimate gathering because
Mhm.
obviously we can't do too much
Yeah.
because of COVID.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm excited for you guys.
He'll be
For you
warm.
to come and spend some time with your little one and the
Yeah.
other ones
All of them.
and the other ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I'm gonna have to come with some balloons, but I'm also gonna come with a gift for each because I can't just do one. So you know how that is. So I'm
We're
excited.
not even going to talk about that right here because you be spoiling them too much and I be telling you no, but you don't listen.
I
So
can't help myself.
I know.
And then Raven's birthday, my daughter's
Yes, the
birthday.
31st.
Yes,
Oh
on
my
New Year's
goodness.
Eve. So
Yes.
Thursday, New Year's Eve, the kids will be with their dad, and then they'll come over. And then I think what I want to do is like maybe a sleepover and surprise her. So we'll see
Yeah.
how that turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the kids are getting so big, she'll be 6. I'm like, can you stop growing? I
The
need to
time
stop.
just flies by. Yeah.
And she's tall, and I'm like, man. So then in January is my other daughter. She'll be 14.
You just, yeah, you have November, December, January, and
Uh,
yeah.
After January, I'll have a break. Thank goodness.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So all right, we're finished with all the update and the follow up, and we're gonna get into today's episode.
Oh my God. And
So,
this episode is so interesting because we actually came up with it because we had a conversation about it.
yeah.
Since, holiday, Christmas passed, and we had a little conversation that was kind of getting heated a little bit. So it's like, you know what? Let's leave it for the podcast. Let's talk about it.
Yes. So today's topic is going to be on do you hold the grandparents of your children accountable? Do you hold your partner's parents accountable when you have children? For example, Christmas has just passed. So I'm going to use that example. So Christmas has just passed, and do you hold your partner's parents responsible or accountable for giving your kids Christmas presents or acknowledging your children? Like we just mentioned this week, our birthdays are coming up. So do you accountable for birthdays and or holidays? Me and Angela were talking about it, and I guess I grew up a little differently. I'll tell you that my dad did not buy his kids presents. Like first of all, he didn't buy us presents. Like I would be lucky if he said happy birthday to me on my birthday, but that's a therapeutic session. We're not doing that.
Right.
But when it came to my kids, he has about 15 grandkids. So he didn't buy them birthday presents or Christmas presents because he never wanted them to feel left out. I think 15 is a lot to buy.
My mom has 12.
And it's a lot.
12.
And it's a lot
she
to
has
remember.
two great grandkids. So
yeah. And it's a lot to remember. Like I think a lot of times he wouldn't even remember like his 5 children's birthday. Like his wife would have to say, hey, his wife would have to say, hey, did you call your daughter or did you call Tasha? It's her birthday today. So, for me, me and Angela were talking, and I don't hold the grandparents accountable for something that the mother or the father should be doing. If the grandparents do it, then great, right? My husband's parents, they buy the kids every Christmas a coat. So
I mean, these are special days, Tasha. Like it's not that you're making them, accountable or whatever for buying diapers or buying clothes or buying stuff like that. Like these are special days that I feel like as a grandparent, yes, show your love, your affection towards your grandkids.
Yeah.
And if you can't even, and it's not even just financially, like materialistic stuff.
Yeah.
If even a phone call, a FaceTime, there's so many technology nowadays, like, come on now. Let your grandson, your granddaughter be like, oh my God, grandma called me, or yes,
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that. I feel like it's very important for grandparents to actually be in their grandkids' life, at least in that way. So it doesn't have to be presents and stuff.
12 grandkids. Does she call all of them like when
she definitely do.
Okay.
I don't know if it's, like you said, like I guess because my mom is 69 years old, so she's old-fashioned. She's like way back the type of grandma that if I need her to take care of my kids, she will. She's not gonna tell me no. No, her grandkids are her everything. And like she always told me, as a grandparent, they say that the love is different. The love that you have for your grandkids, she always tells me this. The love that you have for your grandkids it's so special. You know how, as mothers, our love for our kids is special. That love, nobody, could replace it. But she says the love that you have for your grandkids, it's on another level.
Yeah, I agree.
And that is so true.
Dad, I agree. Like, I was a little jealous, right, of my dad's relationship with my niece, Kimberly. And as she got older, he had this really tight relationship with her. And I was like, that's my dad, that's not your dad, right? Like, because he would, they just had such a close bond. And, again, my dad didn't have that bond with me. And then even my daughter, as she started getting older, he had a bond with her. And it was very different, they would text each other, they would call each other. I'm like, they would like joke around with each other. I'm like, wait a minute, like, my dad wasn't always like that. So I do agree that the relationship is different. I just think that when it comes to, like holidays and stuff, if the grandparents want to help and they want to give a gift, absolutely.
Yeah, but that's not helping. That's, like I said, mentioned before, it's a special occasion. Like, this is special. The birthday comes every year. Yeah. Why not give especially those grandmas that only have one grandchild that they, like, come on now. Yeah. How can you not spoil your one only, or two, whatever. Like, I understand if you have a whole bunch more, but still, like I said, just a phone call, FaceTime, I don't know, a card in the mail with like $5. Who knows? But something that shows that you care for your grandkids. Okay. I feel like that is so important.
So let's get raw, right? Because this is the real and the raw. So
real and raw.
We're talking the real, right? But we're gonna get into the raw.
I came comfortable today. I came comfortable because we about to get real.
Our phone conversation was definitely getting raw. So I want to get there with you guys. So Angela and I, we disagreed on this topic because, in our past episodes, we mentioned that, currently, her, Angela's baby father is not in the picture, but once was, right? Is that okay for me to say? Okay.
Yes.
And the, the grandparents were in the picture at one point when they were in the relationship. Now that they're no longer in the relationship, everyone has exited, not just the baby father, but also the grandmother and whoever else that was in their life. So when we were having that conversation, I was mentioning to her, like, she doesn't feel maybe obligated to do those things for her grandchild because her son is not in the picture, right?
That's not right, though.
So I mean, go ahead. I'll let you speak on it.
I just feel like that's not right. And we did have this conversation. I was telling you, like, whether they like me or don't like me, this is their grandkid, like, this is, okay, we're keeping it real. This is her grandson. So it's like, dang.
And she had a relationship with him prior.
Yes.
So it's not like the relationship was never established and she doesn't know the grandchild. And again, like, this is anytime we discuss anything on this podcast, this is our truth, right? So like, and I feel like I have to keep reminding people that is what this is, because I know that we have a lot of listeners and we're so thankful for our listeners, but we want to make sure that we clarify this is our truth. Everybody has their own side to the story, but this is our side, right? So when talking with you about it, you felt like, that's where this is like really focused on. Like,
I just feel like that part hurts me because, like you mentioned, they did have a relationship. And now, since I don't even know where his son is, she has my phone number, she has my email, she has my address. And there's so many ways that you can, if you don't want to see me, that's fine, but you can you can what you call it, like, send something to my, my mailing address, or I don't know, email, whatever the case may be, but don't just disappear.
And that's where I was saying to you, like, well, she doesn't feel like she has to, or she probably doesn't feel like connected, or she probably doesn't feel since her son
connected to who? To her grandson?
Since her son isn't doing it, then maybe she shouldn't do it. There's so many different reasons. I think you also mentioned that she's younger, right? You said your mom is 69.
Yeah, she's like
she's a younger grandmother,
whatever.
So all of those things could factor into place. I was trying to tell Angela because I didn't know if it was like cultures, right? Like in the Spanish culture, if it was different from, the Black culture, right? But
no, it's not, because I even mentioned to you, I know, a Black lady, and she is so attached to her grandkids, great grandkids. But like I did mention to you, she's around my mom's age.
Yeah.
So maybe that has something to do with the age range, that maybe the younger grandmas really be like, whatever,
Yeah.
They're not so much as the older females. So maybe that could have something to do with it. But honestly, the way I was raised, like, and I told you, when I become a grandma, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be like the best grandma ever. Like I'm gonna be,
even if you don't like his
even if I don't yeah, even that has nothing to do with me and my grandkids. Like my grandkids have my blood, and they are from either my sons or my daughter, but those are mine, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna be grandma. I'm gonna be the grandma that's involved in their life, regardless if I don't like whoever. I don't care. But
so we posted this question a couple of days ago, actually one day ago, on our Instagram and on our Facebook. And I just want to read some of the comments that people have posted in regards to it, right? To kind of see if they were leaning towards my answer or your answer. So Artina, she was actually a guest on our show. She said the grandparents play the role of grandparents. In my opinion, they shouldn't be in the middle of seeing or doing for the grandchildren. The only time I feel like the grandparents should step in is if their son or daughter are not capable of taking care of their kids. So what do you think about that response?
I think the question was a little confusing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I think it was, because we're not, obviously I understand what she's saying. And I understand.
Right now we're just talking about the holidays and birthdays.
And that's what our conversation was about, was the holidays and presents and birthdays and stuff like that. But
you feel the same way if we opened it up and took the holidays and birthdays out of it? If we opened it up a little bit more, do you still feel the same way?
I don't.
Okay, explain that.
In a way, I don't. Like, in a way, obviously, if whatchamacallit, if your kid, whatever, if your son or daughter is not taking care of your grandkid the right way, then I do feel like is the obligation of the grandparents to talk to their kid, to their son, to their daughter, and tell them, like, look, you need to be a better father, be a better mother. Like, I'm not picking up after you. This is your kid that you made with whoever. And this is what you this is what you need to do as a man or as a woman.
Yeah.
But they do need to step up and tell, their kid that they're wrong.
Yeah.
And to, be a better father, a better mother.
Yeah.
But as to being responsible with other stuff, if the grandmother or grandparent, the grandparent can help, then hey, that's, that's okay. I feel like it's okay.
So yeah, because from my situation, like, obviously, I grew up, I don't think I've ever gotten into it that deep in the podcast, but I grew up like in foster care. I grew up like my grandmother on my dad's side took care of us for a few years. My grandmother on my mother's side took care of us for a few years. Because my parents didn't have it together, right? Like, I've been on this earth for 33 years. They didn't have it together, at least, half of that time. And if they did, first of all, I never lived with my mother. But I've lived with my father throughout times. But throughout times, my father, he was in jail. There were certain things that happened. So the grandparents did take that role. Now, there were some times where the grandparents couldn't afford to take that role. It was five of us, right?
Right.
So, you know, at that point, we did go into foster care because the grandparents weren't in a position to take care of us. So, although, you know, you want, you know, the kids to stay in the family and you don't want the kids to go into foster care, you know, understanding now as being an adult is hard. I have four children. It's hard to take care of children.
Girl, I have three and I'm a single mom. I do everything for my
Yeah.
kids financially and everything.
So
And
for a grandparent that's older,
it's,
she already took
yes,
care of
I
her
could
kids.
imagine.
Yeah, she already took care of her kids, and now she has to take care of five children again. Like it's a lot. So, you know,
It
when
is.
Tina put that, you know, I do agree that it's not the grandparents' responsibility,
Right.
but if something should happen, then where the kids are not capable of taking care of the kids, then it will be great for the grandparents to jump in and say, hey,
Yes.
listen, this is what I'm going to do, right? I
Yes.
think even for you at one point that did happen, right? I think that the father wasn't doing something that he should have been doing. And the mom did step in and kind of like instructed him to do something and move forward. I'm not getting into detail because I'll let you do that if you want to. But, you know, so at some point she did care enough to push him a little further to be more of a responsible.
Yes.
So we don't want to discredit her. I just think
Yes.
sometimes when the female steps out of the picture and the female is no longer in the picture, including myself, right? Like my husband and I were separated now. So now do I think that the grandparents on his side are going to do because of me? No, they're going to do because of him. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be, oh, I'm not going to do for her kids because those are her kids. No, those are your son's kids too. So
That's what I'm saying. That's what we
because
had the argue, you know, the little disagreement because you were saying that it's not her responsibility to, I don't know, send a gift, send this.
yeah, I don't
Then
think
it's,
it is, but I think it's great to have that
yeah, it's
reassurance.
not, but
Right?
it's exactly, it is great, you know, to show. And like I mentioned, I don't care about gifts. Gifts is really, I don't care about it. What
Mhm.
I care about is show that you care, you know, show that you thinking about your grandson, whatever, like, you know,
Yeah,
just the call.
it definitely what hurt me is, you know, my kids grandparents, you know, just stopped having that relationship with my children because me and my husband separated and went our separate ways. Even for me, my daughter, like she's old enough, she has a cell phone, and I'm always telling her, like, did you text your grandparents? Did you wish them a Merry Christmas? Did you wish them a happy birthday? Like, I'm always encouraging that relationship, regardless of how they feel about me. You know, you don't have to like me, but I know that my children, that's that's blood, right? They're your grandkids. So at the end of the day, no matter your feelings towards me, I'm always going to encourage that relationship. But
True.
you know, so what Tina said was right. I do think that I agree with her when it comes to the responsibility shouldn't be on the grandparents, but if something was to happen, like if God forbid, you know, the partner would pass away, the partner dies, or God forbid, we both die, you know, like that the grandparents will kind of step in and kind of help out where it needs to be. I think it's tricky situation when you separate because it seems like that's the common denominator, right? Like
Yeah.
my husband and I, we separated. So like, you know, or you and your kid's father is separated. So like I think that the idea is once we separate, that the relationship is still maintained regardless of the separation, right? Because you're
Yeah.
separating with me, you're not separating with my kids.
Yes.
So the next person that posted a comment was Steve. He also was a guest on our show. And he said, my honest opinion is I think the grandparents should get involved if their child is wrong. Let's say parent alienation. I said that wrong, but whatever. If the other parent is not a physical threat to the children, the grandparents should talk to their child. Also, another scenario is if the parent is a deadbeat. I feel that honestly, the grandparents should check their child. However, when it comes to
Yes.
relationship stuff, I think the grandparents should stay out of it. So when it comes to like
He said
custody,
it. He said it. Yeah, I
all of that
completely
stuff, that's
agree.
not the grandparents' place to tell, oh, like you should have custody or you should have custody. That's not their place. But when it comes to checking the
Wait, there's not.
child,
Repeat that. I'm sorry.
so he says,
No, repeat what you just said. That's not their place of what?
yeah, because he was saying, however, when it comes to relationship stuff, I think the grandparents should stay out of it.
Okay.
So, for instance, like if we're
Yes.
trying to establish custody between the kids, who gets primary custody, who gets visitation, or like whatever you're trying to establish. I say custody, but at that point, it's not the parents' decision.
Yes. No.
Leave it.
Grandparents needs to stay away from any relationship matter of
And the
any.
reason why I
Yes.
say, and I agree with Steve on that, because let's say, for instance,
Definitely.
right now, me and my husband, we're separated. Let's say, for instance, we're going through this right now, but what happens 6 months from now if we decide to get back together? Now the grandparents got involved, and now it kind of steers the relationship. It makes the relationship even more difficult, or it makes co-parenting difficult. Even if you don't get back in the relationship, now you're co-parenting, and now you have, you know, like people that are also in that, where it makes it really complicated for the children. So I agree with Steve. Do you feel like what Steve said is more, do you lean more towards what Steve said than Tina, or?
I lead to with both of them. Like I
Okay.
said with Tina, it was the question. It was kind of confusing, but I completely understand where she's going, and I agree with her.
Mhm.
And I agree with Steve too. Like I agree with both.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, like, again, like, if you establish it as far as holidays go, right? Holidays, you strongly believe that regardless of the situation, we could be together in a relationship or separated, but the grandparents should be involved with the children.
Yes, and not just like not just materialistic, a phone call, a FaceTime, whatever.
Now, I'm about to flip it. Do you?
Yeah, what you wanna put now?
I'm always trying to, do you think that also it should be vice versa, right? So there's Mother's Day, there's Father's Day. Do you think that the children, and I say this because, even for my kids on Father's Day, I tell my daughter to reach out to her grandfather.
Okay, that question,
Father's Day.
I can't really answer it because my situation, and if a father is involved in their kid's life, then heck yeah, as a mother, tell your kid to call. If he don't see his father on that day, call his father, send a present, whatever.
The grandmother and the grandfather goes, right? So they're still a parent, right? So the grandmother, would you have, your son call the grandmother on Mother's Day and say, hey,
if that person was to have a relationship with their grandson or their grandkids, then absolutely. Okay. But how can I tell? It's like they're saying, how can you tell a relative, a family member to like your kids? How can you tell your kid like, oh, go, I don't know, care for your aunt, care for your uncle, if he don't really see his uncle, if he don't really see his aunt? So it's like, how can I tell, for example, my kids, I'm gonna put to care for someone, for a family relative, whatever, that they don't even see.
Yeah.
They don't even hear about. They don't even know. So it's like, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always have to flip it. So that's what I did. I don't.
Yeah, you get my cheeks red, yo. Like you getting me heated. No, I'm joking.
I don't ever want it to be one-sided, because that's not what we're about.
It's not, but it's just
mentioned that before, that even when it comes from a woman's perspective, we always try to get the male's perspective, because we don't want this podcast to be one-sided or double standard or anything like that. So when we're doing these questions, I try to be fair, right? So for myself, I know that I tell my daughter to reach out. Now, when you speak of old school, what I've experienced in my family when it comes to old school is that they expect.
But look, wait, sorry to cut you. Hold on. The way you're saying it, you're making me look like I don't tell my kids to like communicate with the difference between your kids and my kids, we're gonna put it out here, is that your kids have been involved. Like they, you know, with their grandparents, with their other family members from their dad's side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, my kids haven't.
I'm not attacking you. I don't think I'm attacking you.
So I don't want to look out here that I'm like telling my kids to not.
I'm just trying to understand like your side, right? Because when we had the conversation over the phone, it did get heated because I didn't understand your side. So if I didn't understand you, then how can I, you know, I'm just trying to understand like your logic. And definitely my situation is definitely different. So I can only speak on my situation because that's it. Like that's what I've experienced. They have, like my daughter has 14 years with her grandparents. So you know, that's an established relationship.
Right.
Grandparents.
Unfortunately, my kids haven't had that opportunity. They know my side of the family very well.
Mm-hmm.
My son, like he, you know, my brother, like he calls him Papi, like that's his Papi, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's his uncle Papi.
He calls him happy birthday. He does all
yes. My brother be coming here every holiday.
Mm-hmm.
He makes sure all my kids, he makes sure he's there. So I'm thankful for my brother. He's a father figure for my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I definitely don't want you to think I'm attacking you. That was not the case. Okay. Take the Vaseline, put it away. We're not there.
I'm gonna see you tomorrow. So hey.
But no, I mean, you know, I just want to try to understand it. And I also want to, you know, sometimes I got to get raw and like bring out that other side because that's what our listeners are probably going to be like, well, does she, you know, she wants them to call the children, but what about the children calling them? So, you know.
No, but definitely when there's a relationship established between the kids and the other, you know, the grandparents, of course, you know, definitely, you know, tell your kids, like, you know, call your grandma, call your grandfather.
I think that we mentioned this in a previous episodes where we mentioned at the time that the new girlfriend should encourage the partner, the ex-partner, to have contact or some type of relationship with their children. So I think in this situation that the grandparents should also feel like that encouragement to still reach out and still acknowledge their grandchildren, even if their son or daughter is no longer with that person. I think it's about growth, right?
I mean, obviously, can you imagine if the grandparents don't reach out to their grandkids? That leaves, of course, the damn father is not gonna do the same either. Because, hello, they were freaking raised by, you know, the grandparents, you know, like the mother, the father. So how would anyone, you know, be thinking that, oh yeah, the father's gonna do different from the grandparents, basically?
I mean, for myself, I know that like my husband's side of the family, you know, I'll leave that to him to make sure that relationship with his family is still involvement with the children. I think that right now it's so fresh, like what we're going through is so fresh that I personally will not keep that connection.
You know what's crazy that you mentioned that? Remember, and back in the day, I used to tell you, oh, I reached out to grandma, aunt, grandparent, whatever the case may be. I used to reach out to that family, that side of the family, and used to tell me like, why are you reaching out to them? Like,
and the reason why I said that was honestly because they weren't reaching out to you, right?
Exactly.
Like it should be reciprocated.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You open that door and you're like, look, I called you today. You can call me next week. Like it shouldn't be like a one-sided relationship. The same with the father or the same with the mother. Like if I'm calling the father to say, hey, do you want to talk to your child today? I shouldn't do that all the time, right? You got to show me at some point in time that you want to speak to your kids. I'm not going to call you and say, hey, you know, so-and-so is here. You want to speak to them. Not saying
Yes.
that's what I do, right? Because my kids have their own phone.
I used to do that all the time, trying to reach out to that side of the family.
And you used to be over the house.
I used to try to
and
go over
and
there as much,
and the dad wasn't there.
and then I
And I'm
gave
like,
up. I gave up. Yes, I gave up because, like you said, I didn't see them trying anything to
It should be
communicate.
reciprocated.
Yeah, so I give
But
up.
any relationship should be reciprocated. Our friendship, me and your friendship, right? It should be
Yes.
reciprocated. I shouldn't be, the only one calling you. You should be calling me. Any relationship, where it's a friendship, whether it's family, whether it's a relationship, should be reciprocated. If not, it dies, right? If not,
That's
I'm not
true.
gonna call you anymore because I always call you. So it has to definitely be reciprocated because then the person shows that they care enough to keep in contact.
Yes.
So I think it's a when we look at the situation, who hurts the most are the children. And I think that's what we identified even in the previous podcast, that the children are the ones that are hurting. It's not us, it's not me, it's not you, it's the children. And it's so unfortunate as
Yeah.
adults that we can't come to common ground, and we allow things to take place that, shouldn't take place. And a lot of times you can only be responsible for yourself. I'm learning that I can't hold other people accountable because they're their own person. I can only hold myself accountable on what I choose to do and not do. So that's why, like for my children, I make sure to tell my children, even when my husband and I were together, I make sure to tell my children, like, hey, did you reach out? Did you call? Did you wish a happy birthday? Grant given, there's some times that I forgot. I forgot to tell them, but the grandparents made sure to acknowledge that to me, like, hey, the kids didn't do this. But I think that the just communication, I think, is so
Yeah.
important. And
My kids are blessed. They have a great grandmother that loves them, and she does anything for them, and she's a great help. So I'm blessed with a.
I think that when we think about grandparents, like not everybody has them.
No.
Like my dad passed in the summer, and my daughter struggles with that every day, right? And I never realized their bond, that connection that they had. Never realized it until like he passed, and she still struggles. Like Christmas came and she was sad, like she missed her grandfather. And I say that to say that she's almost 14, but my youngest is 3, right? So my 3-year-old is not going to be able to say, oh my goodness, grandpa this, grandpa that, because he's 3. So I say that when you have grandparents, and they're alive and they're healthy and they're well, it's important to have those relationships with them because tomorrow's not promised. And that's what I tell my daughter all the time. Like my kids used to go over to my in-laws every other weekend, and they stopped. And I was like, okay, I understand you're getting older, you want to do other things, but understand that, tomorrow's not promised. They're getting older. Make sure you stay in communication. And, it's important. So when you have grandparents that are involved, like your mom and so forth, is definitely appreciated and acknowledged.
Definitely.
Because, in my opinion, not everybody has that privilege and not everyone does it, right? Like my mother is alive, but she doesn't do for my children, or, she didn't do for me. So,
Right.
it's one of those things to definitely be appreciated. And, when you have a grandparent that's alive and they're not in communication with their grandkids, it's hurtful.
It is.
It's sad. But the way I look at it is that the kids are not missing out because they don't know who the person is. It's the person that's missing out. And they won't realize they're missing out. They're going to miss out on all like them growing. And then eventually when the kids are teenagers, they're not going to want to be bothered. So, and that's the same with any relationship. So I think that this episode was definitely necessary because the holidays is here. And, when you think about the holidays and the kids being around who they love and their family, and you find that people are missing, not because they passed away, right? Like in my situation, but because they just choose not to be involved. And that's the hurtful part. Um, but thanking God that he puts people in your life that can take those spots and fill those
Yes.
roles, right?
Mhm.
So, we appreciate everybody's feedback on what they have to comment for us. Oh, I actually missed the comments. I don't want to miss everybody's comment. There was another comment that came in. Forgive me, y'all. Forgive me. Today has been one of those days. So let's see. So Franklin was also a guest on our show, and he put, and again, this is where the question wasn't very specific.
Yes.
And he was like, the parents are raising Christian, and then I expect the grandparents to raise them as Christian when I let them visit and spend time. So he was kind of saying, like, my morals and my views, and then when the kids go with the grandparents and the grandparents' morals and views aren't the same, like, do you hold them responsible or accountable for that? So you see how, like,
Well,
the question was very vague.
yeah, that's another thing too. I think that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, it was hard being in a relationship. Like my husband, my ex, he, when it came to religion, we didn't always have the same views, and it was very hard to raise. Um, it was difficult to raise. I'm sorry, I just got a message.
I cannot.
I told you today is off for me. But yeah, it was definitely difficult to raise the kids off of two separate beliefs. So can you
Right.
imagine, like, bringing your kids? I know my dad, I used to bring the kids to my dad. And, like, let's say my son was on punishment, and I'll be like, Daddy, he's on punishment. He can't watch TV. My dad's like, I don't care what you say. He's at my house. When he's at my house, no rules apply.
Let's not even go there. You know how many times my mom, like, I be telling her, like, okay, back in the day, when I was younger, like, if I was to do that, you would, like, really whoop my ass, you know? But to these kids, like, she let all these things slide. Like, it's nothing. I'm like, no, you have to be fair. Like, you can't just you got to discipline them, because then they come to me and then they're like badasses. Like, no. But
Yeah,
that's just part
so
of being a
that's
grandparent. So I
yeah.
guess when we have our own, we're gonna
Spoil
realize and be like, oh
everyone.
shoot, that's what my mom used to tell me. So yeah.
Yeah, or it's like the one where you're like, don't give them candy, okay? And then they're like, they give them all the candy and send them home with you.
Girl, yeah, all hyper and stuff, because I bet you if they was to stay over the night, he would not give them no damn candy.
So yeah, Franklin. So I definitely wanted to put his comment in there because, I don't want to miss out on anybody's comment, especially when we're asking you guys to, for your feedback and your input on
Yes,
our
thank
podcast
you. Thank you
topic.
for taking the time. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know how long we've been recording. I've been off a little. Like, did we start at 7? But
I don't know, because we spoke about, certain situations that happened, some sad event that happened
yeah.
with
So
someone you
yeah,
knew.
so
So
Angela, before we pressed record, I was talking to Angela, and I do want to pay tribute to one of our listeners. Unfortunately, he has passed away. I just found out, a couple of days ago due to COVID. We just have to take this seriously, man. Like, he reached out to me the end of November, and I was actually planning for him to be a guest on our podcast. And
right.
it just we never scheduled a date. And so when I found out he passed a few days ago, I was just like, I didn't believe it, right? I was waiting to see more. Like, okay, I need to look at his brother's page. I need to look at, his page and start seeing condolences. I didn't believe it. Like, we had a healthy conversation, and to find out that he passed away, I'm still in shock. So,
man, this COVID is no joke.
no.
And, some people don't take it serious, but trust me, it is serious. And once like it hits, close to home, someone that you love, relatives, friends, whatever, like it's hard.
Yeah.
It hurts. And
you see someone today and you don't see them tomorrow. And this is just, confirmation that life's too short. We created this podcast for therapeutic reasons so that it can help myself, it can help Angela. I'm going through so much this time, like today, yesterday, but I'm grateful that I'm alive, because when you look at your situation, somebody's situation is always worse, right?
yes.
And the thing is, I try to look at the negative situation and find at least one positive. If I can find one positive, then it's cool. I'm moving forward. Um, but man, this COVID thing really sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. He was a listener to our podcast, and I'm just so grateful for his support in supporting us. And, I just wanted to pay tribute to him at the end of this episode, and, just let our listeners know to take COVID seriously. Um, I did travel a few times this year. Uh, we went to restaurants this year, Angela and I, like, we kind of tested the limits too, because, you don't really believe too much of it until it comes close to home, right? So, I definitely am going to.
Actually, no, let me correct that. We went to restaurants, but it was when it was summer and outdoor. We would not go inside for nothing.
Yeah, it was outdoor, but it was still, still a risk, because people are still preparing your food, right? They could be,
yes.
For me.
But it was nice to step out a little, because
definitely.
we was in quarantine, like, oh my goodness, strictly like just for months. So, but definitely,
definitely
as long as you take it serious, wear your mask, and be 6 feet apart, then yes.
Yeah. Sanitize. Understand that too.
Definitely.
If someone said they were systematic or whatever, understand that just because you're systematic does not mean that you can't walk in a room and give it to everybody else in the room. Systematic just says that you don't have the symptoms, and you are okay, but that doesn't validate the person you're standing next to, that doesn't validate the person that you're going home to. So just be cautious. Angela and I've had this conversation because we mentioned I'm working. Angela's actually not working at this moment because of COVID, and sometimes we have a conversation and I'm like, hey, won't you go back to work? And Angela's like, no, right? And then on my hand, I'm like, but you can't live in fear, right? But God also tells you to be smart. And
right. You have to make, God gave us a mind, a brain to think. And I have people here that, especially my mom, she's diabetic and everything. So I need to make sure she's good. I can't bring nothing back here. I have a baby. So all these things, I need to.
It's so scary because
take care of.
I've started to come closer to home. There's people like my supervisor, she had COVID, and she was out for 2 weeks, but like she interacted with me. There's people, that we know, right, that has had it, and sometimes we don't know. Like I was speaking to a coworker the other day, and she said that one of her guy friends had COVID, right? I'm going to tell you the story because I didn't tell it to you before, but one of her guy friends had COVID. And so one of the guy friend's wife had COVID. And so he came to her house and she's like, yeah, we just hanging out on the couch. Like, that's like my guy best friend or whatever. His wife was at home with COVID. And I said, wait a minute. Like, mind you, we're talking. She's standing right next to me, right? We have masks
oh my God, no.
but we're talking. And she's like, yeah, he came and he was sitting on the couch and he was just hanging out with me and talking to me and stuff like that. And I was like, wait. you allowed him in your house? And she's like, yeah, you know, like nothing, like
That's when you say people are not taking it serious.
and I said, first of all, you know, his wife had COVID. He's taking care of his wife, so most likely he has it or may. She's like, oh, he wasn't sick. It doesn't matter. So
Some
now,
people don't have symptoms.
so now you just risk yourself. But she has kids. Her youngest is like 1 year old. So I'm like,
Yeah, and she risks herself,
your house.
and she risks you too. And you too, because you didn't even know that she, you know, that she was interacting with this person. And then there you go.
Just in conversation.
And then that's what it's crazy, because the one person that always take care of themselves and be cautious and this and that, and boom, someone comes and just brings it to that person.
Yeah.
And that person, you know what I've mentioned to you, that what I fear is that you never know how your body's gonna react to it. Everybody is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people, their symptoms are not as bad as the other person.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking that chance. I'm not taking that risk. Yeah. I'm not doing all that.
Scary. So, and it's like, you know,
I'd rather stay my ass home.
Right. You can go to the grocery store and, you know, the cashier could have it. You could, like, you don't know anymore. And it's like, God doesn't want you to live in fear, but like these people that are passing away, you're like, what?
I miss my work. I miss my coworkers. Yeah. Oh my God. I can't wait till this thing is like over and we can go back to our normal lives.
But I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. We don't understand why it happens. You know, we all have a purpose on this earth. I believe that once my purpose is fulfilled, I will be gone, hopefully to heaven. But you know, I think everybody has.
You know, my prayer is, God, please give me long lives for my kids.
Yeah.
My kids are my everything, and God knows my situation, and He knows that I'm everything for my kids. So I'm their, you know, their everything source and everything. So it's like I ask Him for more life, you know, for them, so I can leave them big and they could be able to, you know, be able to live without, take care of themselves. Exactly. That's all I pray to God for.
I agree, and I think that you know, like guys, if you're listening, definitely take this seriously. We want you to be safe. We want you to get to,
please.
We want you to get to 2021. And you know, that's where it's at. So we appreciate you guys for listening as always. If you disagree with our response to this question, now that we've explained it a little further, you definitely okay to DM us. You can comment on our social media platforms. I thought this topic was important because Angela and we don't always agree. And, you know, again, in the beginning, when we had the conversation, I was like, it's not the grandparents' responsibility. If they want to do it, they can. So it was like, wait, Paul, that's a good episode. That's a good episode to talk about. And so we waited to have that conversation with you guys. Most times, when we're airing these episodes, we don't talk about it prior. Like we might start and then we're like, wait, that's a good episode. And then we put a pin in it and then we come back to you guys because we want this to be real. We don't want this to be rehearsed. So what we discussed today, we didn't talk about yesterday or a week before or whatever. And I think that's what makes this podcast real and raw. So we won't see you until 2021.
Oh my God. Wow. I can't believe it. But guys, have a safe and, you know, have a great New Year's.
Please be safe. Please, I don't want to see on social media that you guys are out there. Please be safe.
No. We all need to, like, you know, help this whole situation just, you know, we don't all help each other and stuff like that, then it's never gonna get better.
Yeah.
So definitely, and I'm excited to see you guys next year.
Yes, we made it. And we'll tell you guys that like 2 episodes ago, we were like, we're taking a break. And the fact that we're back and we're moving forward just shows that 2021 is going to be a great year, Angela. We're going to speak it into existence. Our
Yes.
topic we were
Yes,
supposed
we
to
are.
do. Remember, our topic we were supposed to do was our New Year's resolution. So maybe next week we'll do that. You didn't get off the hook with that. It was your
No. I'm
resolution.
okay with that. I'm okay with that topic. Yes.
So yeah, so guys, we'll see you in 2021. And thank you for
Yes.
watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes. Mwah, mwah, mwah.